And accountability, and most of us believe, need to be held accountable for their actions. But gosh, the way it's looking now, it's get to where no one's accountable. They commit a crime, and in an hour later, they're back out on the street again. And it's getting, well, you just, all you got to do is turn on the TV and the news and see how much.
Back in 1800s, yeah. What they do with a horse, stole
yeah.
a horse,
yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Excuse me for saying that, but it's true.
But in today's lesson, Israel is about to be held accountable for their sins and will be facing the consequences of their response to God. Both. Oh yeah, you just fast forward to today. It is. No respect for the law, no accountability. Yeah, or for one another. That's so true. And like I said, it really applies today. Like I said, we can just fast forward today's lesson to today and just see what's happening. But it's about Israel being held accountable. Chapter 3 begins a new section of the book where Amos brought a series of 3 messages introduced by the phrase, hear this word. You know, we talked about last Sunday, listen. You know, it's talking about, that Charles Stanley, everyone's saying this term, now listen and pay attention. Well, Amos in his prophecy, God through using Amos, trying to get Israel to listen, but they had no part of it. You know, everything was going great. The message in chapter 3 lays the foundation for the remainder of the book. Now, God would hold his people accountable for their irresponsibility. You know, and we said, I think, talking last week too, you know, ignorance is no excuse for the law. Ignorance was no excuse for Israel. They knew better. And we even talk about today, say someone maybe get in trouble, and maybe they were raised in a good home, good Christian family, and I'd say they know better. They knew better. Now, not making excuses, maybe someone that didn't grow up in that kind of lifestyle and no training and leadership and everything, and say, well, they didn't know better. But still, it goes right back to decisions. I heard someone say one time, you take 2 children, well, say 2 boys from the same family, same upbringing and everything. One turns out good and the other one bad. Why? And someone, the person said, a lot of times it's gosh, my mind's getting bad. In other words, the influence, the people they run around, peers. And I was telling that to a friend of mine one time. I was talking about his son, and he said, well, he is the peer. So that happens too. But in the 7th, but he asked 7 rhetorical questions with obvious answers. Amos reminded Israel of the principle, cause, and effect in chapters 3 through 6. The 7th climatic question reveals that the God would be the cause of calamities Israel would experience. In Amos 4, 1 through 13, our lesson focus today, Amos focused on Israel's sin of self-centeredness. Their self-centeredness was expressed in a number of ways. Self-indulgence, self-deception, self-delusion, self-reliance. Notice all that word self. Self, yeah. You know, it's the 5 eyes of Satan. You know, I'm going to ascend upon high, and I, and it's the same way here, really. It's I. And it's all thinking about self. But they had a sense of entitlement. Well, we hear that today, don't we? Entitlement. Where I'm entitled with no regards to others. I hear some people say, well, no, they disrespected me. Well, you got to gain respect first. It's the first thing you got to do. But note how many times, like I said, self got in the way. Boy, you know, we've even said the phrase that sometimes, you know, if you got problems in your life, look in the mirror. Yeah. And, you know, we said, I think, tell you, when you're pointing your finger at somebody, there's 3 pointing back at you.
Almost you carry one in your pocket.
Right. Yes. But, you know, but we have the attitude today, and know how many, like I said, got self in the way. I've had loved ones, and some say, well, I've been doing for others. Now it's time I do something for myself. And, you know, that's wrong. You know, you take it, and many of you have. You've cared for a mother or a father, and you know the roles reverse. And you think about and of course I'm not bragging or anything, but I cared for my mother. A lot of her, and Linda had cared for her. But you say, well, I'm tired of this. Get somebody else to do it. Well, I get you think about how many years did she care for me, and that's true. But I see it happen even in our families. That our distant families and stuff. So,
Some family members are so much easier to take.
oh yeah, I understand. I understand.
Hundreds of times I said, my mama, I would have took her in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
To her. My daddy, oh no.
Well, that's what my girls told us. She said, we'll take care of mother, but Seth's going to take care of daddy. And I said, I'm just going to, if I go before Luella, I'm going to pack my little old house or right there in the middle of the pasture and leave me alone. But they don't always work out that way. I know one time Mother, Judy was here, she told Mother, she said, I'm getting to where I forget a lot. And Mother said, I don't. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I've seen this. There used to be a lady up there in the nursing home. You tell, look at her, just a sweet old lady, look like but cuss like a sailor. Yeah. Yeah, no filter. Okay, let's get into our lesson text. Somebody read Amos 4:1-3. Okay, good.
Hear this word, ye kind of Bashan, that are in the mountain of Samaria, which oppress the poor, which crush the needy, which say to their masters, bring and let us drink. The Lord God has sworn by his holiness that, lo, the days shall come upon you, that he will take you away with hooks, and your posterity with fishhooks. And you shall go out at the breaches, every cow at that which is before her, and ye shall cast them into the palace, saith the Lord.
Amos called out, it's not strange to me, called out the women of Samaria, pointing to their personal indulgences at the expense of others. He declared that God would exact punishment on these women. Should it come to us surprise that Amos referred to them, now, I want to make this clear, it said referred to these women as you kind of Bashan. Well, some of the NAS and the CSB calls them cows. Now, Amos said that, I didn't. Kindness means cows. Yeah. Like I said, Amos said that, I didn't. Well, what it is, and we'll go that they were living in prosperity, and we got these old fat cows, the heifers, these old heifers. Yeah, I know. Like I said, Amos used this, I didn't. But it can be interpreted like it's cows. Amos said it, like I said, but keep in mind where Amos' background. He was a sheep herder. It was probably used in phrases common to his culture. In other words, he probably wasn't real polished in his vocabulary and everything. No, he didn't. He didn't always talk nice to them sheep. But like I said, it was just, well, I say everyday words. So, but anyway, bashing. I always thought, boy, I'd have been in trouble, like Jesus said. It said, woman. Oh, I'd have been in trouble if I'd have spoke to my mother, woman. Yeah, when I got up off the floor, then yeah. Oh yeah, right. But Bashan continued it contained wide open plains with exceptionally fertile soil. It served as Israel's breadbasket. With wheat as its primary crop, the region provided high quality pastures for livestock. The best livestock on the land came from Bashan. Cows of Bashan could be understood as an expression pertaining to their luxury and privileged circumstances. These women were of the high society. We've known of these. They were well dressed, dripping in jewelry, all gathering at their tea parties with their manicured nails and their poodles by their side. we can just picture that. We can just picture these ladies, all gathered, got these women clubs or whatever, and just really flaunting it. But they put on a show and acting like the Pharisees. I thought the Pharisees when I thought they put on the show. I'm glad I'm not like these old tax collectors. And don't you know, you can hear these ladies' conversation. I'm glad I'm not like that old trash. And of course, I'm just well thought of. We're high society, and we're just really considered to be high class. But their sense of entitlement meant that no whim of theirs went unmet as others suffered to make an existence happen. In other words, they could care less about the needy, about the ones that were in need. What about me? What about me? Yes. It is a picture of extortion, exploitation, and manipulation of the poor to bankroll in a luxurious life. Amos depicted these cows, when I said it, he said it, I didn't, as overbearing housewives, commanding their husbands. Now, I kind of take offense to this part here. They commanding their husbands to bring them what they desired. No, it wouldn't work mine either, but yeah, I just want more. It's never is enough. I want more and more. But Amos said their days are coming. All your luxurious living is about to come to an end. Amos then described a list of how this would come about. The women would be carried away in boats, pots or baskets as used in fish to market. They will be dragged away by ropes. Come in. Have a seat. They got you a book. Okay.
When I was growing up in the First Baptist Church, there was two ladies, and their husband one of them was a banker and everything. Trying to outdress it for things, And I kept one day Mother said, they were, and I said, I've been trying to tell you that.
But Amos then described a list of how this would come about. The women would be carried away in boats, pots, or baskets as used in the fish markets. They will be dragged away by ropes. Fish hooks will be used to carry them away into captivity, referring to rings being put in their nose to lead them into captivity. Yes. Now, some of this may be, what's the word? Can't think of, metaphors. Yeah, metaphors. But hooks may be metaphorically referring to butchered cattle hanging on hooks. Amos is painting a pretty bad picture here. While there may be debate over the exact meaning of the expressions Amos used, the people of his day understood his meaning. Yeah. Look what happened to, my mind's not working. No, that was Jezebel. Yeah, Jezebel. Yes. Yeah, her day came. He used phrases common to him to describe their plight. Like I said earlier, of course, he was a sheep herder. He was a common person. But we have phrases common to our culture and upbringing. We have phrases all the time, that may not be common to other parts of the nation or the country. We've all used all of them, and a bunch of them. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Remember that? Don't put the cart before the horse. We were in Louisville, Kentucky. Went to it was a concert, singing in several. And one of the performers was he was from Kentucky, and he was talking about when his granddaddy passed away. They were at his deathbed, and said his grandmother was there, and got ready to leave. She said, "I'll see you directly." He said, "I had to explain to some people what that meant." I said, I knew what he meant directly. And that term is used in here, use it directly. What? No, you don't hear it anymore. I've used phrases, and young people look at me like, what are you talking about? and some of them I've used, and I really don't know what it means. I just heard it for so long. It sounds good. But we grew up with a lot of phrases, and it was something that was common to our culture, is what it is. And I think this is what was with Amos when he's using this terminology in these descriptions of what's going to happen to these women. It was terminology that was common to his day, and like I said, people, they understood what he meant, what he was saying. So someone now reading verses 4 through 5. So not all at once.
Come to battle and rebel even more at giving brings your sacrifices every morning, your chants every 3 days. Offer leavened bread as a thanksgiving sacrifice, and loudly proclaim your free will offerings, for that is what you Israelites love to do. This is the declaration of the Lord.
Amos turned his attention to the second offense before the Lord. Israel's worship had become superficial or shallow and self-exalting. The people were busily involved in religious activities. Doesn't that sound familiar today too? Some of them, they're just involved in all these religious activities, and these women, as they crowded their places of worship. They remind me of the scribes, like I said earlier, the scribes and Pharisees. I'm not going to read it all, but I want to read a portion of Matthew 23, 13 through 33, and I'll just pick a few scriptures here. 13, but woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you shut off the kingdom of heaven from people, for you do not enter in yourselves, nor do you allow those who are entering to go in. Woe to you, blind guides, who say, whoever swears by the temple, that is nothing, but whoever swears by the gold of the temple is obligated. And it just goes on and on. Verse 33 even goes down here. I'll even skip down to it, if I can find it. You serpents, you brood of vipers, how will you escape the sentence of hell? And it's just, like I said, when you get a chance, go back and read Matthew 23, 13 through 33. Jesus is letting them have it, so to speak. But did it register on him? I don't think so. No, they sought to kill him, take his life, and had him killed. But every morning, these people, they offered their sacrifices. These sacrifices were for the atonement of sins, to be made only once or at most 3 times a year. And their tithes were to be offered every 3 years. Yet they were bringing tithes every 3 days. The sacrifices were supposed to be voluntary expressions of gratitude for God's blessing. Why were the people so involved in these acts of worship? Why would they, do more than what was required by law? Were they going beyond? Why were they going beyond the law required? I think so. It was to draw attention and to glory to them and glory to themselves, not to God. Look at me. Look what all I'm doing. And that's kind of like in other words, what they're doing is, like I said, look at me. But another phrase, your left hand's not to know what your right hand's doing. But they were saying, look at me, and like the Pharisees again, they put sackcloth and everything on, look like, well, I'm just what? Woe is me, yeah, and that's supposed to was supposed to be done in secret between you and God. But yet, yeah, fasting. That's what they would. They would look at me. I'm fasting. They'd paint their face up and I just well, what's wrong with you? Oh, I'm fasting. Just glorifying God. But no, they weren't. They were trying to bring glory to themselves, which was just void and null. I think of the words right quick when they stand before the Lord, said, "Depart from me, I never knew you." And look, these people here said, "Oh, look at I even doubled and tripled up on tithes and my offerings and all this, and I did it all for you, Lord." And he said, "No, you didn't." Yeah. Yes. Right. But notice how there was no mention of the people offering up sin offerings or guilt offerings. Well, they weren't guilty of anything as far as they were concerned. Why would they have to offer up Yeah, it's perfect. Why would they have to offer up anything for their sins and guilt? They hadn't committed any. I was reminded, same that last night. I was reminded there was a movie on TV years ago, and I've shared this before, but like JC, I hadn't heard it in a long time. So, but this couple were about to get married, and one of them was a Catholic, and the other one was a Jew, and the mother, the Catholic mother, was just bent out of shape because her husband has not gone to confession in years. And she wanted him to go to confession before the wedding. So he finally agreed, and he was in the, whatever they call it, confessional. And he's sitting there just, well, I know I've done something wrong. I can't think. Well, I kind of think they may have got to the point where, I may have done something wrong, but I just can't remember. But mhm. Yes. Yeah.
That little voice,
Yes.
little voice in the back of your head.
Mm.
I was raised that all of my sins have been thrown in the heap of the lake.
Mhm.
I think that's
Well, there's often another saying too: be careful what you ask for. You may get it. And but apparently they lacked any sense of guilt, none whatsoever. They had deceived themselves into believing they were blameless before God. In other words, like I said, look at me. I'm just perfect. Never done anything wrong, and God must love me because look how He's blessed me, giving me all these material things. And but it's and we say like so we see that today. Oh yeah, yeah. I knew a lady here that she was not filthy rich, but they weren't hurting well off. She liked to say how much she had to pay for everything, and to me, I don't want anybody to know because they'll say, "Oh, you paid too much." and, but and there's people like that. Well, they want the best. They want. Yeah, me too. Yeah. I remember mother telling me, you don't buy anything unless it's on sale. I said, well, you got to have the money to buy it when it's on sale. But that's the way, gosh, her sewing room was no telling how many dollars worth of material. And just everywhere. But it was on sale, so she bought it. No. Mm-hmm. We threw right through Lord and the kids, and some of that material was even rotten. She had it so long, and it was. But anyway, she died happy. Oh yeah, yeah. So now someone read now verses 6 through 11.
And I also have given you cleanness of feet in all your cities, and want of bread in all your places. Ye have ye not returned unto me, saith the Lord. Also I have withholden the rain from you, when there were yet 3 months of the harvest. And I caused it to rain upon one city, and caused it not to rain on another city. One piece was rained upon, and one piece whereupon it rained not with it. So 2 or 3 cities wandered unto one city to drink water, but they were not satisfied. Yet ye have not returned unto me, saith the Lord. I have smitten you with blasting and mildew, when your gardens and your vineyards and your fig trees and your olive trees increased. The palmer worm devoured them. Yet ye have not returned unto me, saith the Lord. I have sent among you the pestilence after the manner of Egypt. Your young men have I slain with the sword, and have taken away your horses. And I have made the stink of your camps to come up unto your nostrils. Ye have yet not returned unto me, saith the Lord. I have overthrown some of you, as God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And ye were as a firebrand plucked out of the burning, yet ye have not returned unto me, saith the Lord. Boy, they were.
Yeah.
What were they?
Yeah.
Sin,
Mm. Yeah.
Self-involved.
Mhm. Like today, yeah, self-involved. I'm reminded. I want to read that. I was just reminded that reading this, but this Malachi 3:8 through I think 11. Will a man rob God? Yet you have robbed me. But you say, how have we robbed you? In tithes and offerings. You are cursed with a curse, for you are robbing me, the whole nation of you. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, so that there may be food in my house. And test me now this, says the Lord of hosts. It will not open for you the windows of heaven and pour out for you blessings until it overflows. Then I will rebuke the devourer. Going on what they're saying, you're not going to get it. You get to keep it. He's going to let Satan have it. And that's what's happening here. It's finally it's come back it's finally come back going to come back to haunt them. In other words, yeah. It just and we say, look at that. How can they do that? Well, we do the same. This nation, this people are doing the same. Amos, like I said, then revealed 7 ways God had responded to Israel's unfaithfulness. The Lord had given them every opportunity to return to Him. How many opportunities have we had? Oh, gosh, it's probably more than we even know or realize. Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, the churches, people were in church there, but it lasted what, maybe a month or two. When the movie, Mel Gibson did the Passion of Christ, people said, "Tell the church, get ready. People are going to be filled in the church." It didn't even happen. Didn't happen. We have gone so cold and so calloused that it doesn't it doesn't affect people. Well, he made a lot of money. Quagmire. He's out there in that quagmire. Yes, yes. Oh yeah, yeah. I think Brother Steve and I were talking the other day. Yesterday, said, we're talking about Queen Elizabeth had passed away, and somebody made a comment, and I never really thought about it, but it's a lot of truth. Why do we as people of this country put actors and actresses and people of power up on a pedestal? We have no queen. Yeah. But that's our queen. That's our queen and king, is these people in Hollywood. Yeah.
And so, not just a short time before she died, she had one.
Yeah.
And the minister talked to her about the return of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Oh, how I wish that he would return while I'm alive."
Yeah.
And the minister said, "Why?" And she said, "So I can cast my crown at his feet."
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That made me feel good.
Oh yeah.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. We'll all do that. We'll all cast our crown at His feet. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think even her, when she was inaugurated, when 26, she made a mention of that she was, when she was young. Yeah, yeah. Well, sure. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Probably why she had a long ring.
Probably.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Probably so. Wasn't her husband? Wasn't he Prince Philip? Wasn't he 100 when he died? 99. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Sure, with Christ more than any, a love story with the Christ more than any. But the Lord had given them every opportunity to return. First, cleanness of teeth is a vivid way of describing a nationwide famine. They should recognize that famine is a result of God's judgment for sin. But did they? No. God would send famine upon them as a consequence of their unfaithfulness. Second, God deprived the people of rain at the time they needed it most. Well, we can relate to that. Isn't it beautiful? Everything's green now. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, I had to mow too. Yeah, that's the only thing bad about it. It's had to mow. Yeah. Well, I told Will I was either going to have to mow it or bale it because it got so high.
I thought about all y'all up there when I got there in July, and everything was green. And I even sent her pictures, and I go out and drink coffee on
Mhm.
weekend mornings.
Yeah.
Sit there and just look at that green grass. I was going to try to dig some up.
Yeah.
My girlfriend in Alabama said, well, how is it there flow? And I said, brown like cornflakes.
Yeah. You walk across the yard and it just crunches, Just. But the lack of water 3 months prior to harvest meant their crops would fail. Every time about this time of year, every year I plant what's called some food plots for the deer. I'll plant some oats. Seth got it plowed up yesterday. We've been waiting on it to rain so we have enough moisture in it that we could plow. You couldn't get the plow in the ground. It's hard. But about this time, and it all depends on the rain, whether the oats will make it or not. And the soil needs enough moisture to plow, then needs the rain to germinate the seed. I think when I was in grade school, we'd have some little cups. We'd plant some seeds. No, I think it was beans. We plant some beans in there and watch it grow. But after the plants come up, it still needs intermittent rain to keep it alive and growing. I have had the plants sprout up and then to get no rain, and they just wither away. It all depends on when the Lord sends rain. We have no control over it. To make matters worse, some got rain and others didn't. Boy, we can relate to that too. Here's the other day, I watched a cloud coming in from the northwest, coming right for us, and it got right there to us and made a right turn. Yeah. Yeah, close to no cigar. Yeah. And it always seemed like San Saba County always got more rain than us. I've told well, I'm threatening to move to San Saba so we can get some rain. Yeah, but it stopped when I moved. Yeah, just and the unjust.
That's what I said about the Cowboys championship.
Yeah.
I'm coming back to Texas. When I got here, what happened?
Yeah. Yep.
I
But
always say, quit teasing us and rain.
yes.
The Cowboys play tonight.
Yeah, I know it.
Let's see how fast our pastor preaches.
Yeah.
It'll be a short one.
Write that down. But then the crops that had survived the drought, the Lord struck with disease. People who thought they had escaped the drought helplessly watched their crops wither away. Fourth, God sent scorching wind and mildew. When I lived out in West Texas in the what they call the Cap Rock, and where there's a lot of cotton and corn and grain, I've seen that get up about like that, and then a sandstorm come through there and just mow it right there at the ground. Just wipe it out. Llewellyn had an uncle in northwest Kansas who was a farmer, a big wheat farmer and corn and everything. And it didn't dawn on him at the time, but he planted his crops in like a checkerboard. And it may be 10, 15 miles away from, in a radius. And I thought, why did he do that? Well, he said, I've seen here and watched my wheat crop get wiped out from my bedroom, my living room window. Well, in other words, if he checkerboarded it all, may get the crop here, but maybe the one over here might not get. So I thought, well, that's pretty smart farming. Well, they don't terrace anymore, but yeah, oh yeah, they did. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, they don't do that anymore. I don't know why, but still, of course, most of it's irrigation. But yeah, you see some of these places, old farm and old fields that they terrace, they're plowing them down. But yeah, they in fact, Llewellyn's cousin farms. He what's called no tillage farms. In other words, you don't even break the land; you just plant right on top of it. You leave the stubble and everything there, and then plant right on top of it. Well, yeah, I guess it works. As I asked him, I said, well, what about, doesn't that, they talk about what's called a hard pan. If you plow and plow for years, after so long below that where you plow, it gets hard. You can't, he said, no, it don't affect it a bit. It doesn't cause a hard pan. But anyway, he ought to know what he's doing. He's farms a lot of acres of land, But okay, mildew. You know, we've seen that happen too. Yeah, and just ruin it. Yes, amazing. Yeah, they call it a blight, wheat blight or corn blight. Uh, yeah, yeah. We was talking this morning there, and I said, you know, that agriculture is the only business, you want to call it business, that the consumer tells the producer what they're going to pay for it. Go to Walmart and tell them what you're going to pay for a certain thing. Well, but the thing is, that is the only thing that the business they produce. There, it's what they get's based on what the consumer tells them they'll pay them, and that's the only business that's that way. But you know, in fourth, like I said, scorching winds, and then where was it? The crops that survived were struck with devouring locusts, stripping the gardens and vineyards. You know, this should have been a reminder of their ancestors when they were in Egypt. But, you know, they'd long forgot. Yeah. I remember, how many of us know what a blister bug is? Yeah. Blister bug, yeah. They're still around. In fact, Tyler was by the house the other day, and he said, "I've got this bug been riding with me." I said, "That's a blister bug. Get it out of you, because you get it on you or something, it'll cause a blister." Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you know, like when we lived in Brownwood, we'd come down here for the weekend, and we'd had a garden and it looked real good and pretty. We got home that weekend. Blister bugs were covering that garden. It was stripped. Everything was stripped in that garden. Oh yeah. Yeah, well, they tortured more than one way, yeah. But they just like got in a row and just went through that garden, just stripping everything, the leaves of everything. No, I don't. It was just a small garden. We didn't use anything. But but it was. That's the first time I'd seen it do that. They just like, I mean, they wiped everything out. Yeah. Oh yeah, grasshoppers. Um, and but reminds me of a store I planted. I think the last garden I had here a while back. I was over on my hands and knees pulling weeds, and it just dawned on me. I said, when I was a kid and had to pull weeds and hoe, I promised myself I'd never do that again. And here I was on my hands and knees pulling weeds. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They still grow a huge garden. She gets on her knees and pulls weeds, and she pants and freezes everything she grows.
Well, I like what somebody said. You don't need a garden, you just need a neighbor with one. Yeah. But I remember, like I said, the fifth, the Lord struck Israel with pestilence, probably referring to bubonic plague. It was passed on to humans by the rat flea. I knew a person when I was working out in West Texas. I think he'd killed a raccoon and skinned it, and he got the bubonic plague, died from it. It was from fleas on that. Yeah, it killed him. And you know, that's the first I'd heard of it in years. You know, someone getting and gosh, I don't know how many, when I was growing up in school, how many raccoons we hunted and skinned. And I guess I was just fortunate. I don't know. But it was deadly, the plague. But sixth, the Lord used Israel's enemies to call his people back to himself. Amos described the loss of Israel's elite soldiers who were killed by the sword, along with horses they rode. Now this is when it gets pretty gross here. The massacre happened so close to home that people could smell the stench of rotting carcasses of Israel's sons. Now, shouldn't that get your attention? You'd think it would. Yeah, but no, it still didn't. Yep. God kept repeating, "You have not returned to me." And all these verses, you have done this and this and this, and yet you have still not returned to me. The seventh and climatic involved fire. This probably refers to Israel's near extinction at the hand of the Syrians prior to Jehoram's taking the throne of Israel. The comparison of Sodom and Gomorrah may indicate Israel's enemies sowed the ground with salt so that nothing would grow there anymore. That's a pretty good defense mechanism. I mean, just covered the salt, and you've ruined their livelihood. I mean, that's not having to fire a shot. In other words, in a way, just, if so, like Sodom and Gomorrah, Israel became a wasteland of salt, sulfur, and ash. As deserving of these consequences as Israel was, the Lord graciously, mercifully saved a remnant of Israel. God's grace. I don't know what would we do without God's grace.
Amen.
Yes. But he saved a remnant of Israel as pulling them out of the fire. But they still refused to repent and turn to God. Like we said, what is it going to take? Someone read verses 12 through 13 right quick. We're just about out of time. Ken's going to be showing me his watch here in a little bit.
And because I will do this unto thee, prepare to meet thy God, O Israel. For lo, he that formeth the mountains and createth the wind, and declareth unto man what is his thought, that maketh the morning darkness, and setteth upon the high places of the earth. The Lord, the God of hosts, is his name.
Amos challenged the Israelites to prepare to meet God. In this meeting, they would give an accounting to him. Can't escape it, can you? To emphasize the seriousness of the meeting, the prophet reminded the people of God's power and sovereignty. Because of their self-centeredness and refusal to return to the Lord, there would be no more warnings and no more opportunities to return to God. That's what we've said before a lot of times. When is God going to say with us, when I've had enough? I've had enough. Yes, right. They relied on themselves and their own religious practices. Well, I'll go on. Israel's God was the one who created the mountains and the wind, who makes darkness turn to dawn, and who treads on the high places of the earth. How could they have been so foolish as to disregard their covenant with the Lord, who is the creator, and to have developed such an attitude of self-reliance? They would realize their blunder when the God of hosts came to meet them in judgment and waged war against his rebellious people. How could they be so foolish? How could we be so foolish? Yes. And time after time after time, God is the forgiving God, willing to forgive us. Yes. Any other comments? Ken's showing me his watch, but in the comments. Butch, would you dismiss us, please?